Welcome to the emergency evacuation training for when you are on site at 1 the Esplanade. This building has 29 floors and 2 basement levels and is a mix of commercial and retail space. This video will outline the emergency life safety features and emergency response guidelines for your building, showing you what to do and where to go in an emergency. As our workforce is more flexible, there is likely to be less people consistently on site, so it is important that you familiarise yourself with these procedures so you can take action in an emergency if required. Access. Please download the Brookfield Properties Tenant Communication app, Access. Access is a vital communication tool used for 1 the Esplanade to keep all tenants updated during an incident requiring an evacuation. If you have not downloaded it, please do so when you have finished the questions and answers at the end of this video. In doing this, you are contributing to Brookfield's successful coordination of emergency management for your building. Emergency response. This video will outline the emergency life safety features and emergency response guidelines for your building, showing you what to do and where to go in an emergency. As our workforce is more flexible, there is likely to be less people consistently on site, so it is important that you familiarise yourself with these procedures so you can take action in an emergency if required. This building is equipped with an occupant warning system, fire, smoke detection apparatus, firefighting equipment, emergency lighting, and emergency exits. The building is also equipped with fire curtains. Obstruction warning devices have been installed to detect any obstruction being placed under the path of the fire curtain. A local warning tone sounds when the obstruction has been left under the path of the curtain for more than 10 minutes. Please ensure that the pathway for the fire curtain is left clear at all times. In an emergency, you must listen for specific generated emergency signals and announcements to assist you. Alert signal. This is the alert signal. When you hear the alert signal, stop what you are doing and respond to the warden internal assembly point to prepare for a possible evacuation. If the floor warden is not present, the first confident person to the internal assembly point assumes the role of floor warden. If there are not enough wardens, the floor warden will recruit and brief wardens. The floor warden will remain at the warden internal assembly point and identify themselves by wearing the yellow warden identification provided. Remaining wardens are to wear red. If you are not aware of the location of your warden identification, then please make yourself aware when you are next in the office. The floor warden will follow the instructions available at the internal assembly point and will report to the chief warden the status of their floor when required using the whip phone. Whip phones. The whip phones connect to the Emergency Warning Intercommunication System, EWIS, and allow direct communication between the chief warden and the floor wardens during an emergency or alarm activation. These phones are red in colour. Please take notice of evacuation diagrams, signs detailing the location of the whip phones. Floor wardens should note that lifting the handset of their whip calls the chief warden. Depending on the nature and location of the emergency, your call may not be answered immediately. Stand by and wait for further instructions from the building chief warden. If you become aware of a life-threatening situation whilst standing by, commence an evacuation of the floor immediately. Evacuation signal. This is the evacuation signal.
Evacuate now. Emergency.
When you hear the evacuation signal, if you are not already at the internal assembly point, make your way to the internal assembly point. If there are insufficient wardens available, be prepared to step into the role, take control of the evacuation and recruit others who are able to support you. Don warden identification and commence an evacuation of your designated area. If you are located at the internal assembly point, commence an evacuation of your designated area immediately. Wardens will commence an evacuation of all areas. The floor warden will remain at the internal assembly point and provide instruction to others. This might include directing other wardens to check and clear a designated area. Wardens, when your designated area is cleared, report back to the floor warden. When all wardens have reported back, the floor warden will report the status of your floor to the chief warden via the whip phone at the internal assembly point. Floor wardens must report any refusals to evacuate and any people with a disability, including where they are currently located. Wardens can also now evacuate using the dispersal method. The floor warden will advise the chief warden when the floor is clear. It is important to remember, do not use lifts unless instructed to do so by your chief warden or the emergency services. Persons with a disability. If someone cannot evacuate for disability reasons, A warden will move them to an emergency exit and inform the floor warden of their location. Floor warden is to ensure a warden is assigned to and will remain with them. Stay on the floor unless it becomes unsafe. If the situation on the floor does become unsafe, the warden is then to move the person with a disability into a protected area, like the emergency stairs, and remain with them until help arrives. The chief warden may make announcements over the public announcement regarding the emergency before or during your evacuation. Listen carefully to and follow their instructions. All personnel should ensure they do not take unreasonable belongings when evacuating, as they can be a hazard in an evacuation. Do not go back to get belongings. Remember, do not take anything that may compromise yours or anybody else's safety within the emergency stairwells and exits. Follow any instructions given to you by your chief warden or floor warden. Unique to this building is that the fire-affected floor will go directly to the evacuation signal without any prior alert signal warning first. If you are on the fire-affected floor and do not receive any alert signal, only the evacuation signal, wardens are still required to report to the internal assembly point to liaise and collect your identification. Commence the evacuation process now. General occupants should commence self-evacuating immediately. The dispersal method of evacuation. This building uses a dispersal system for evacuees after evacuating and exiting the building. The dispersal method is used where a suitable external assembly area cannot be determined. In using the dispersal method, it allows for social distancing, reduces security threats to large gatherings of evacuees, and allows for an organic reoccupation of the building, reducing crowds re-entering at any one time. The dispersal method has 3 designated zones around the building: a red, an orange, and a purple zone. The red zone is an exclusion zone and is the immediate area surrounding the building to a distance of 250 metres in all directions. This is a zone not to be occupied by any evacuees. The orange zone is the safe distance designated between 250 to 500 metres, or a minimum of a 10-minute walk in any direction once you have exited the building, whichever is the further distance. The purple zone is to be used in the event of a bomb threat or security threat to the building. This zone is nominated as a minimum of 500 metres or 20 minutes walk from the building exits in any direction, whichever is the further distance. Road safety. Once evacuated, please walk calmly, safely, and follow the following safety tips. Always use pedestrian crossings when crossing the road. Check for vehicles turning at intersections before you cross the road, even if you have right-of-way. Never assume an approaching driver or rider will stop for you. Never cross the road from behind parked or vehicles stopped in traffic. Avoid using a mobile phone or headphones when you cross the road. Remain at a safe distance and outside the exclusion zone until the all clear is given. Regular messages and incident updates may be sent to your mobile phone via a system called Access. The all clear will also be sent to your mobile phone via this system called Access. Once you receive the all clear message, you are safe to make your way back to the building and reoccupy. Do not re-enter the red zone or your building until given the all clear to do so by the building emergency messaging service, Access. Race. What to do if you discover a fire or smoke. If you discover fire or smoke, race. Remove people from the immediate danger area. Alert others in the vicinity of the fire or danger. Raise the alarm, call 000 and ask for the fire brigade. Confine the smoke and fire or other threat of danger. Close all doors behind you and, where practical, windows. Extinguish or evacuate. Only attempt to extinguish the fire if it is safe to do so and you have been trained in the use of the equipment. Extinguish applies to small fires only. Manual call points. Manual call points are historically referred to as a red break glass alarm. These are a manual way for occupants to activate the audible warning system for the site in the event of discovering an emergency requiring the attendance of the fire and rescue. These are operated by firmly pressing on its centre and snapping the glass or plastic element. When installed correctly, on activation, they will automatically notify fire and rescue. Firefighting equipment. When using any equipment to control a fire, ensure you keep a clear path between you and your exit behind you. Never let the fire and/or smoke get between you and your exit. Fire blanket. A fire blanket cuts off a fire supply of oxygen, smothering it either permanently or until more effective firefighting equipment can be employed. To use a fire blanket, pull down on the pull tabs. Unfold the blanket completely. Hold it in front of you to shield your body, hands, and face from the fire. Place the bottom edge of the blanket to the near side of the fire. Cover the burning material completely, ensuring there are no gaps for oxygen to reach the fire. Shut off any gas or other fuel and heat supply involved in the fire, and contact Fire and Rescue Department if you have not done so already. If it's fats and/or oil that is involved in the fire, leave the blanket in place for at least 30 minutes to allow the oil or fat to cool. Fire blankets are not designed for reuse. It is essential that you dispose of your fire blanket once it has been used. Fire hose reel. Fire hose reels provide a reasonably accessible and controlled supply of water to combat a potential Class A fire risk. A standard fire hose reel, when fully extended, reaches a length of 36 metres. A control nozzle attached to the end of the hose enables the operator to control the direction and flow of water to the fire. To use a fire hose reel, turn the operating handle. This action will also unlock the nozzle. Test the discharge. Unreel a portion of the hose. Where possible, use another person to assist. Start the water flow at the nozzle. Ensure water is flowing from the nozzle before combating the fire. Fire extinguisher. Before using an extinguisher, check the safety label to ensure that you have the correct type of extinguisher. These images will assist you. Pass. Pull the pin and test. Aim at the base of the fire. Squeeze the operating handle. Sweep from side to side. Only operate an extinguisher if it is safe to do so and you have a clear escape path. Stay with us. There are questions to follow shortly. Knowing what to do in an emergency will ensure that your stay in this building is a safe one for you and your co-workers. Remember, people's safety is the first priority, not extinguishing the fire.